And it is now 9 minutes to 10. We continue with this. As we mentioned, Africa Matters conversation that Channel Africa is launching. It's a summit that starts on the 25th of March 2026 at the Donald Gordon's Auditorium at Wits Business School. We'll be looking about Africa's climate recovery. We'll be looking at it from a regulatory perspective, looking at the financial architecture, but basically asking what is at the heart of Africa's recovery amid the global climate crisis. There are massive gaps, but we look now at the women who produce the majority of our food. They're often the last to receive the funding needed to protect it. To speak about this, President of the Economics Association of Malawi, Dr. Bertha Bangara-Chikadza, joins us now. Dr. Bangara-Chikadza, thank you so much for speaking to us. Let's just go straight into it. Research shows that a tiny fraction of global climate finance reaches women-led grassroots organizations. In your experience across the SADC region, what are the primary systemic barriers preventing this capital from flowing to particularly female farmers and others within the global supply chain?
I think we have a scale bias in climate finance in such a way that when you look at all these climate funds, for example, the Green Climate Fund, the Adaptation Fund, and all other funds, they tend to be disbursed in large ticket tranches. We are talking of 5 million to 50 million minimum. And these grassroots women organizations do not operate in such a cycle. They operate in small grant cycles. And so they lack formal accreditation, and they cannot even meet some fiduciary compliance thresholds. And this actually limits these climate finance funds to actually trickle down to grassroots organizations like these ones. But also, when you look at, for example, intermediate bottlenecks, when we look at the funds, how they flow, they're coming through multilateral banks and also national governments and large NGOs. And at each layer, there are these administrative filtering that are occurring in such a way that the women-led farmer groups rarely sit at those tables. And as such, they don't even get a share of what actually happens there. And when you look at even the issues of collateral, issues of land, most of these women do not own these assets. They don't have formal ownership. They don't have bankable documentation. And so they struggle even to access concessional green credit. There are a lot of issues that we can talk about, but I think these systemic issues are structurally designed for institutions and not communities.
And I want to take it from a conceptual level. If you're talking policy and strategy, why is it that some of these interventions are gender neutral? Because I know some suggest that when you talk about gender and climate, it's either both or neither, as in they're inextricable.
I think probably it's because we are not emphasizing a lot, just to bring that, gender blind issue in it, because when you look at even the policy tools, the gender responsive climate budgeting is not mostly enforced in most of the countries. And as such, we cannot even track what really happens and what is reaching women, what percentage of whatever has been allocated is indeed trickling down to the women, to what maybe percentage are women-led projects, being approved, what are the approval rates, what is the credit, being dispersed by gender. Probably because also women are not, seriously involved when it comes to this budget formulation. And I think by doing that, there isn't even maybe a transparency dashboard, mandatory gender impact assessment, and as such, I think we tend to see these gender blind, adaptation funds.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, the reason I did want to speak to you about this is the fact that we often have to push that agenda. We have to be deliberate about applying a gender lens to, for instance, traditional ownership requirements or structures when looking at green loans or as you mentioned, applying gender blind metrics to understand how we track the success. So if we look at the microfinance models that exist at the moment for climate resilience, just how far behind are we in scaling up gender-smart investment funds, for instance?
I think we are very far when we look at, for example, scaling gender finance or gender in. I'd say, anything that is completely that is taking into the consideration gender or mainstreaming agenda when it comes to climate finance, because I think of the same things that I talked about, because probably we are not putting women into it when it comes to, for example, the formulation of the budget, when it comes to, for example, public transparency dashboards. We are very far, because when we look even at the metrics that tend to be used, the percentage of women farmers that are accessing maybe climate finance tend to be small as compared to even those who are accessing the same but not in Africa, not in low-developed countries. When we look at even the percentage of climate grants directly controlled by women, actually they are very small. When you look even at yield variability, they are actually different. So I think it's just a matter of maybe trying to mainstream gender in whatever we are doing, so that at least we have also metrics that we can track when we are getting this financing, or as such we should be able to know who is getting what and what percentage, and even the impact of that which is trickling down to the women.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to us. And this is just only but a fraction of the conversation that we will be having at Africa Matters. Speaking to us there is the President of the Economics Association of Malawi, Dr. Bertha Bangara-Chikadza.